Welcome to the Natural Year Challenge, this edition talking about soaking and sprouting. And today we're going to focus on nuts and seeds, almonds and sunflower seeds. As you saw in the article, it's very good to soak your grains, your beans, and all the rest because of the phytic acid. And phytic acid is simply a protective mechanism in the plant which is toxic to animals, and too much of it for us is very harsh in the digestion. So this is one of the best ways, if you have any kind of compromised health, to ease the digestion process, because it unlocks all the nutrients and it neutralizes those things that are so irritating, and phytic acid is one of them. So let's talk about soaking first. And we started soaking our almonds a couple years ago, and it was interesting because my daughter with severe nut allergies, we took a risk, and after soaking and drying the almonds, she tried one, and for the first time she was able to eat almonds in many years. Now, we tried it with another nut, the cashew, it didn't work. So I don't suggest trying this necessarily. I'm just pointing out that the soaking really does something, because if she were to have an almond now that wasn't soaked, she would have a reaction. So all you do, it's one of the easiest things to do, and I love that, is you cover almonds, maybe 2 cups, cover them in water, make sure they're covered in water, and you add maybe a tablespoon of salt, and this is Himalayan sea salt. I just do it by sight, and I leave it for at least 24 hours. You don't have to leave it that long. That's what I do, and you will see after that amount of time, even after 7 hours, you will see it start to sprout, and that's what you're looking for. Just a sign that this neutralization process is done and it's starting to sprout. You don't need to sprout the almonds necessarily, just soaking them, and actually they're very difficult to sprout, but soaking them does a lot. And then there's an abundance of things to do with almonds after that. So what I do is I drain this, and then I put it on my dehydrator tray, and I dry them so that they're a good snack. If I'm using them in a recipe, I don't necessarily dry them. I can just food process them. I can make nut butter, and I can do all that. So that's soaking, and of course, it's simple to do with the grains and the beans. The beans should be a warmer water, so it's a little more complicated, and then you cook the beans, but you're still accomplishing the same goal with all of it, and that is reducing the amount of phytic acid, making it more digestible. The other thing we're going to talk about is sprouting. I tend to do this with sunflower seeds, and we get a lot of mileage out of this. And this process is simply to do the same thing. Soak it in water, but you do add a neutralizer, and that can be lemon juice or whey, whatever is convenient for you. I always have whey on hand, so I put some of that in there. Soak it overnight, and what you'll be looking for is the same thing as starting to sprout, and then you drain it, and I'm going to show you what I do. You can do this in a jar, and you don't need to use a strainer. You can have a sprouting jar, and you turn the jar once you've rinsed and drained out the seeds, and you turn it so that you're getting as much air exposure as possible, and let it sit and keep rinsing it that way. For me, for sunflower seeds, this is what I do. I just strain it in there, and then I leave it in my sink, and then every few hours I come by and I rinse it to avoid the mold growth. That's the basic thing, just giving it enough exposure and keeping it clean. And I do that, and then I'll walk away and I'll leave it. Within a certain amount of time, you'll start to get sprouts. And once it's sprouted like this, I know I'm good to dry it or do whatever I want to do with the sunflower seeds. So it's not a hard process, but it involves thinking ahead and time. It's not as convenient, obviously, but it's well worth your effort. You will notice a very big difference in the digestibility and how you feel after a meal, specifically with some of these seeds, nuts, and beans. So thanks for watching this edition of our Natural Year Challenge.